This is Back Roads of Illinois podcast with Nomi Bloom from Total Farm Marketing for today's program. We were talking about the corn yields and the crop conditions in the Midwest alongside in central Illinois. Otherwise, stay tuned on Back Roads of Illinois. Today, we were joining with Nomi Bloom from Total Farm Marketing for today's podcast. How are you, Nomi?
I'm doing really well. It's a beautiful day today in Wisconsin, and the crops are looking good, so life is good.
How is the Packers for this preseason in Green Bay?
Well, we won that first game, but we lost to the Broncos. So hopefully the season continues to just get better and better.
This time is for serious business. Let's start with our conversation about the crop tour for this week. What is your thoughts on this week on today's podcast?
Well, I'm really excited to see and hear what the crop tour has to say because we're expecting in many places to see and hear about a record crop in some of those areas, or at least in general, confirm the USDA notion of near record yields or record yields. So I think that, it's not going to be perfect in some places, but I do expect them to be able to just show how good in general this crop is this year.
What is the yields for right now in southern Wisconsin and Minnesota?
Well, I would say that in southern Wisconsin, I really strongly feel it is going to be a big crop, maybe some of the best. I've driven from the eastern side of the state to the western side of the state a few times recently, and it's the best that I have ever seen it. I mean, as far as when you're driving from the road, it just looks phenomenal. From my clients that I have in Minnesota, they say that for some places, it's going to just be phenomenal. And other portions of Minnesota, they're thinking more average. But of course, we're all curious with all of that early rain that Minnesota had, if the crop at all was stressed or because it was planted a little late, might the yields be different? So that's what the crop tour will help for us to understand this week. So we're very curious to see how things end up in Minnesota.
Naomi, could you explain to our listeners about these commodities markets?
Yeah, so right now for the grain markets, prices are lower than where they've been in the past few years because supply for U.S. grain has been.
Is there anything would you like to tell our listeners about the corn crop in the Midwest?
Well, I'm very curious to see where the crop is superior versus areas where there may be deficit. And so specifically, I'm thinking about Northwest Iowa, portions of South Dakota, and Southwest Minnesota, where they had all of that flooding earlier in the year. So even if they end up having decent sized crops because of some of that flooding that they had earlier, it may not be as big of a crop as what they were hoping for just because of the reduction in acres. So I'm curious to see if we see stronger cash basis levels in portions of the Midwest because of that. But in general, I think that we are going to just see how great the American farmer can do with growing a crop when they've been gifted overall a lovely summer between temperature and sufficient rains. So it'll be interesting to see what the final yield numbers are and how that plays into grain marketing, not just for the rest of 2024, but into 2025. Because then as soon as we wrap up our harvest here in the United States, all of the focus and attention will turn towards what South America is getting planted and then how their crop is growing during the months of December and January. So stay on your toes. There's always something happening in these markets between weather here in the United States and weather conditions around the world. And then, of course, with all of the geopolitical things happening with Israel and then also with Russia, Ukraine, and then our US election, it could be a very exciting remainder for 2024 and beyond. So be ready for anything.
What is Do you have any final thoughts or phases?
I just want to remind the producers that are listening to always, do your best to stay on top of your marketing skills and get familiar with all of the marketing tools available to you in your marketing toolbox between cash market strategies and futures and options strategies. They are all available for you to be of help. And if you ever have questions, feel free to reach out and ask. We're happy to help at Total Farm Marketing to do our best to teach how the tools work.
Where people can find you.
Yeah, feel free to give a call at 800-334-9779 or take a look at us online, totalfarmmarketing.com.
Thanks, Naomi.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
This is Naomi Bloom from Total Farm Marketing for today's podcast on Back Roads of Illinois. This is your commodity markets update on Back Roads of Illinois. Corn futures finished in up 8 to 9 cents. Soybean futures finished in up 10 to 9 cents. Wheat futures finished in up 7 to 9 cents. Cattle futures finished in down 8 to 10 cents. Feeder cattle finished in down 4 to 6 cents. Lean hogs finished in up 8 to 7 cents. Crude oil finished in up 2 to 4 cents per barrel. Dow Jones finished in up 8 points. Thanks to Naomi Bloom from Total Farm Marketing for today's program on Back Roads of Illinois. We're running out for today's program on Back Roads of Illinois. This has been Back Roads of Illinois. I am Cesar Delgado. Have a great day.